pandemic trapped a bunch of aging role-playing gamers in their homes, forcing them to crawl out of their pen and paper comfort zone and into the online world of virtual tabletops and video calls. To join them as they raise the curtain to share their stories, insights, and love of all things geek. So grab your longsword and your +1 bottle of Viagra and get ready for another episode of Advanced Age Role-Playing Gamers Podcast. That's a lot of syllables for one sentence.
Hello and welcome to the Advanced Age Role-Playing Gamers Podcast. I'm Nathan. I'm a host for tonight. We've got a special episode. We've got the folks from Battlelords, the 23rd Century, on board with us, and we're really super excited to have them. This is probably, we've done a few interviews, and this is probably the biggest one we've ever had. And I kind of feel like we should have just grabbed some dice and some character sheets and got to it, but didn't really plan that out. So we're just going to interview them and talk about what's going on, and they can tell us a little bit more about Battlelords and what they've been working on. So tonight I've got with me Tyr and Chris. If you guys can say hi.
Hello.
Hi, everybody.
And if I could have the guys from Battlelords do a round robin and introduce themselves and you know, who they are, what they do. We'll start with Kurt.
My name is Kurt. They call me the Viking, and I am an engineering nurse.
That's awesome.
Excellent.
How about Dave next?
Dave or David, also CDO, OCD with the letters in the correct order. And yeah, known Tony for a very long time and Kurt for a while as well. And yeah, martial arts. My background is actually chemistry and then computing. I'm published in low energy physics. So this is some of the things I've done, been involved in gaming since a while ago.
We don't know what that's like at all.
No. No, and, the fact that I was sitting around reading your book and remembering some pages from 20 years ago from the 6th edition, I'm like, I should really focus more on my job.
And we'll finish up with Tony, executor. Is that what you're?
That's one way of reading it.
Okay. Executor.
Yes, my call sign is executor. It also has a different meaning. I'll let Dave go into that.
Yeah, we gave him that name because you can pronounce it two ways: executor or executor. Leaves people wondering.
Yeah. That's always good. That's good. So it's great that you guys have known each other a long time. The most of us in our group here have hung out with each other for a long time and played games together. In fact, Tyr and Chris are the only reason I actually know about Battlelords, even though I've been playing since the 80s. They're the ones who kind of started regaling me with stories about their past characters. So
Battlelords is the reason that I should never play martial characters again. Whenever I even mention it, Chris Holt starts to hold his head and just cry. Yeah.
No, but we actually hope to get one of the one-shots of 7th edition done for one of the future podcasts pretty soon.
Train to Hades. Based on that comment alone, Train to Hades.
Sounds perfect.
Yeah.
All right.
We're down to a coin toss of who's actually going to run that one, me or Chris.
Yeah, it sounds like a really upper alley. But yeah, why don't you guys, like me, not everybody knows about Battlelords. So who wants to volunteer and kind of do how, what, and why Battlelords for us?
All right, well, I'll show the book here. Oh, well, I guess it's not going to work so well with the green screen, but there we go. There's the book. It's fading in and out. You got to deal with those rift dimensions. They're kind of hard to manipulate. So Battlelords of the 23rd Century is a science fiction role-playing game based in Percentile. From a genre perspective, you take the dark and dystopian kinds of futures. You take Blade Runner, Fifth Element. There's people who have money. There's people who don't. And Battlelords is one of the ways you can get out of that. So they're the rock stars or the basketball players or the football players of their time. We have the flexibility to allow for being more of a mercenary or stand-up kind of army, thinking like Starship Troopers. or you can go for more of a piracy or exploring the frontier, kind of vaguely like Serenity and Firefly. A lot of different options of how you want to play it. It's a very flexible system. So that's a little bit about kind of the nature of the game. And then the creator we're actually the third company, Tony, keep me honest, third company to pick this one up, to keep it going. And Larry Sims created it like 92, I think it was.
I think 90 was the first.
Was it 90?
That's going by my book.
Okay. I've lost track of exactly how old it is. It's been around for a few years.
Yeah, we started first playing it in 1995, I think it was. So just to give you an idea.
Yep. And created by Larry Sims, an African-American who had been in the military, and he wanted to bring together an RPG that reflected some of the experiences from a military background. And that's why there's a lot of things that you can see that you can just kind of pull straight out of an Army manual. Tony, Kurt, I don't know if you want to add anything.
Okay, the playstyle in Battlelords is very flexible. It's a wide open campaign where you can do just about whatever you want. If you want to be a space pirate, you can be a space pirate. If you want to be a colony inspector, you can be a colony inspector. If you want to be Indiana Jones, only the alien equivalent of it, you can do it. This system is so flexible, it can handle all of that.
From what I remember, what I've read about the up ones, I mean, you literally can do anything. You can be a mercenary, you can be a private eye, you can be part of the military, you can be against the military. It's so open world. It's just left to your imagination.
Yeah, we've run kind of top secret-y types of campaigns through here. One campaign I ran, the players all decided to get together and run a shipping company. They basically got their hands on a large ship, and so we basically had to build Starship rules on the fly. So that was an interesting thing. They started running a cruise liner and picking up passengers and dealing with adventures along the way. And
we recently ran afoul of how that could go badly with a Starfinder campaign that we were in, where everything was great. And then we got to the Starship battle weeks, and I would just throw up in my hands and sit there and watch the chaos happen because it just didn't run as smoothly as it should have.
Yeah. Spaceship combat is hard. Unless the whole game is around. Like I remember those old systems that Starfleet battles where it was just about spaceship battles, but a lot of systems just don't do vehicle combat great, so it's super tough.
Yeah, our focus for the Starship combat system, so the challenge in running Starship combat or even vehicle combat, it looks like we may have lost Tony's visual here, is that the focus of the gameplay, right? So if you take Starfleet Battles as a great example, Starfleet Battles is great as a cohesive game system where your focus really is on, I've got all these ships, I've got all these counters of missiles, I've got all these shuttles and fighters and all these different things. It has no context or understanding of the people on the various things. So there's no captains, no engineers, none of that. That's all gone. Or if you go back in the day and remember FASA's Starship combat system, which is based on Star Trek, they had two ways to play it. One was just like Starfleet Battles. The other way was to flip it and say, okay, we're going to have you on the bridge. Someone's going to play the role of the captain. Somebody's going to play the role of the engineer. Someone's going to have phasers, that kind of a mindset. Or battle stations is one that apparently is a more modern version of that kind of a thinking. So it was that kind of contrasting them, player focus, thing focus, right? Or ship focus. And so we've intentionally created something where it is player focused. What is the player going to do? Are they going to shoot the guy jumping onto the bridge? Or are they going to fly the ship? You can't do both. You're either flying the ship or you're shooting. And you want to do both. Yeah. Well, what's your priority? Mm-hmm. So it really keeps that dynamic going, and it keeps it player action based versus you're breaking out of context, kind of jumping to this other context and then jumping back in again.
And really, the order mechanics discussions get very, very dry after a while.
Yeah, that's the other thing we did. We avoided any kind of intent to create specific distances and speeds because, you start getting into, do you really want to do that calculus? I'm happy to do it, but do you really want to go there? And so that's why the distances and stuff for the thing are more of a, they land as a very arbitrary, I'm close, I'm not that close. I'm accelerating. It's actually done from a relative frame of reference. There's always somebody who's slower. If you think about the old World War II movies, right, or reels, the bombers are always getting attacked by the fighters. The fighters are never getting attacked by the bombers. Somebody's going slowest. That's the inertial frame of reference, and it's all about how fast they're coming in. Because at the end of the day, in space, whoever's got the faster engines, much like World War II, the fighters had the faster engines. The bombers just kind of had to fight them off. That's all you can do. Same thing for sailing ships. Why were the smaller sailing ships used against the larger galleons? Because they were faster and they could pick the fight the way they wanted to pick the fight.
Yeah.
So it gives you that kind of a mindset of they're coming in, and you kind of like the Star Wars with the Millennium Falcon and the TIE fighters coming in. You're having to fight off the invaders coming in, or flipping it if you're coming and you're like, I've got to come in and take my shots and pick the range I want to be at. So the fight's driven by that mechanic. And so it doesn't matter how fast you're flying through space. What really matters is, are you closing? Are you maintaining your distance? Or are they managing to accelerate their engines and flipping the mechanic, and now they're pulling away? And it's all about that relative distance.
So in Battlelords, we try to keep the focus on the player. Everything is about the player, their skill sets, what they're doing. Having them do something the entire time is the crux and focus of the game. So we've tried to keep that to scale from their suit of armor to vehicles to even spaceships. So every time during those situations or during those games, what they're doing, the intent is to keep the focus on the players, to keep them entertained, engaged, and having fun.
It doesn't leave out your cargo guy.
And that's awesome too, having that scale, because that I found was a real problem with, or at least a lot of people had a problem with Palladium, with rifts and what have you. And the old systems, the MDC, SDC, heavy mechs, spaceships, it didn't scale. You could lose an entire party of characters in one shot. It was unpleasant to play.
Yeah. So speaking of that, like one of the things when you think about rifts is like played a lot of it, super fun, but wasn't so balanced. So how do you guys tackle balance with the Battlelords system?
Yeah. So there is that kind of thing that's inherent when you have the ability to bring in starships capable of crossing galaxies and doing horrendous amounts of damage. The way we've got things scaled from that perspective, there are hand weapons that can damage them. I mean, it's not a fair fight, let's be clear, but there are ways to be able to be not completely ineffective. So there's a lot of scalability across a fairly large range. But there's also the pick your fights. So there's a certain amount of understanding, what to do when that comes into it. Because the gameplay choice of engaging a starship while carrying a pickle, a pistol, and wearing a loincloth, probably not the wisest choice. But if you're an Orion, it's perfectly in character.
Yeah. I'm going to quote one of your books. It's not if the characters get killed, it's a problem with them. They're over-equipped and undertrained.
Yes, absolutely. That's one of the common themes that we encourage the games to play, is that over-equipped but undertrained. You've got all this really cool equipment, but you don't know how to use it very well, and you've got to solve the problem, and you've got to learn on the fly and think really quickly about some things sometimes. It makes for some really funny scenarios.
I know Chris and I have been through some of those, and they've been fantastic. Like Logan, ejecting an escape pod while you're fleeing from a ship that is going to catch you or blow up your ship, except that escape pod is full of explosives. And it blows up the ship that's trailing you. It works.
So wait, you're going to ride on a bomb and hope it doesn't shoot you. Okay, yeah. Good luck.
Oh no! There were no personnel in that escape pod.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
We're just using that as a means to get away.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I thought you meant you were getting in there and then popping out of it, leaving that behind, so you were dead.
Well, we have a player who likes to do those kind of things, but
yeah,
we haven't introduced him to Battlelords yet. Tony Kubo and Battlelords are going to go hand in hand.
Yes.
Pure chaos.
One of the other.
That's usually my job, to come up with the strange stuff.
Yeah.
There's some strange things. One of the other common themes that was a big thing for Larry, and we've tried to continue, is really that focus on gameplay and overcoming differences. I mean, when you look at military training, they take a bunch of people with random backgrounds and throw them all together, and they have to function as a unit. You may or may not like that person, but you have to trust that they're going to help keep you alive. And so that was a common theme as well.
That was a theme that we just wrapped our season with Twilight 2000, and that was absolutely how you can describe that campaign. A bunch of people, wildly different backgrounds and nationalities, thrown together, had to form a unit and survive. And it made for interesting gameplay.
Yeah,
but it absolutely worked.
And you've got like what 13, 14 different races, species, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah, we've got about I think it is 14 species, somewhere in that neighborhood in terms of playable species, and they've got back history. They've had wars with each other. Sorry, Kurt.
Oh. Okay.
Thank you. And so they've got back history where they've had wars with each other. So certain of the species really don't like each other. So you get into some interesting things with Fentari and Eridani, who are the classic, we don't get along. Kurt, you want to jump in with more about species?
So there's every species in the Battlelords universe has its own unique ecological niche where it developed and grew and the reason why they're that way. So you have some that are completely powerhouse fighters like your Scissoraks, your Ram Pythons, your Eridanis, and you have some that are extremely intelligent like your Chitilians and Muzakans. And then you've got some that are just off the wall like the Rosette, who are good at fixing things, and your Keen, who are the supreme snipers and scouts, to your Infiltrators, the Mazians. Everyone has a role to play, and everyone's function is not so much designed, but there's areas where they have strength. On the flip side of that, anyone can be anything in this system. And the only thing you really have to worry about is managing the interaction between the species, because some of these have gone to war with each other, like the Scissorek and the Rams. I mean, they have literally tried to wipe out the other species, like the Eridani and Fentari.
So now we're talking about changes from the 6th edition to the 7th edition, right?
Correct. Yeah. So one of the things we wanted to do with the change from the 7th edition to the 6th to 7th edition was bring in some alternate species choices to kind of help fill in and provide some roundness. So we brought in the Fought, which were a very common favorite from one of the what we'll call Galactic Underground Gazettes. And we wanted to bring in a species that kind of complemented the idea of being in space a lot, because there wasn't a species that was really good at fiddling with things and construction and that kind of a thing. And they wanted to fill them in. So the species, just to run through them real quick, you've got your Chitilians, who are basically empaths running around trying to learn the secrets of everything. They're great at corporate espionage. Oh, he did it. Scissoraks, battle kitties. Don't need to say anything more than that. Eridani, think alien samurai with plasma swords cutting things up. Fought are redneck rabbits with guns. Humans and gen humans don't really need a lot of explanation. Genetic humans are basically genetically modified or engineered humans who have additional traits. Keen are trifibious bat frogs. They can glide. They blend into the background. They're perfect for force recon. They basically stick back as a sniper or blend into the environment, sneak up, disable things. Matsians or Mazians are the piles of goo that can transform into anything. They're your Odo type, if you're familiar with Deep Space Nine, so think like Odo. You've got Mutakans, who are your energy wizard type. You've got Orion rogues, who will do anything on a dare. They love to party. Fentari are their allies, and the Fentari are four-armed squid-like creatures that breathe methane, and survival of the fittest is king for them. That is the only rule. If you are strong, you do what you want. If you're not, well, too bad for you. The Pythons and the Ram Pythons are related. The Pythons are basically giant snapping turtle types that are quite armored and good at swimming and aquatic type things and really good ground forces. Ram Pythons are bigger, kind of like a T-Rex, but with big arms and everything. They're just really massive lizards. Rosette are the ones we added that are basically bugs that like to fix things. There's a lot of interesting things about the biology, which I'll let Kurt get into. And then the Zen, Regelin, and the Zazen. The Zen and Zazen are the same species. They are the healer type. The Zen are the very much moralistic. They're all about healing and pacifism and helping people and all that good stuff. And the Zazen are like, yeah, but what about these situations that just... Is there any time when we can do something that's a little against the rules here? Can we bend rules at all?
Some people just need
and that's
killing.
where you start straying. Some people desperately need killed, yes.
Look, sometimes
that's what the Orion Rogues
sometimes cancer's got to be cut out.
Yeah.
And on that path becomes the Za.
This is great, and you're taking us down memory road here. I'm remembering all the games we played and whatever. 7th edition, is it still compatible with 6th edition? I noticed that you guys on the website have a bunch of stuff still out for the 6th edition. Is it still compatible, or the game system changed that much?
Is the stuff from 6th edition compatible with 7th? To some degrees, no. And the reason that is when we redesigned the system, we had to do a ground-up evaluation of what was overpowered, what worked really well, and what didn't.
So things like supplements,
a lot of like tweaks and changes. So you'll see some of the matrices are at different power level now. I mean, one of the big things that I gave Tony a lot of grief on was like law rockets. My Zen would carry about 4 of them because he was strong enough with his lift system. Which, if you played Battlelords in the past, you know they did hordes of damage. And it was very effective about taking people out, especially the big hitters. So we tried to even that kind of stuff out, as well as like the species. So previous Eridani Ram were the premier fighters. And those that played Scissorax had a number of good bonuses and ability to get things done in combat, so to speak. But now we've kind of rebalanced them and retooled them. And so everybody has areas that they're strong in, like with the Scissorak, the agility. The Rams are still the strength. But we made it more so like the Eridani are phenomenal now with the hand weapons. And they get other perks as well. On top of that, we've rebalanced weapons. So, it kind of makes it easier for the GM or BM to handle the situation and run it more appropriately, weapon equips, that kind of stuff. So you kind of have a better idea of what power level your enemy is and what you can handle and take. So there is some of that you can do with bringing the 6th edition information in and that. But a lot of the weapons and equipment have been kind of tweaked. So you may see different numbers in there. You may see different abilities in there. And they're all very similar, but they're slightly different. But hey, it's kind of like anything. If you want to bring in your Gemini from the previous edition and give him, bolted on armor, that's up to the GM and you. Work it out. Same thing with some of the things like the Simon and that. That's all going to be kind of GM related. But a lot of it is going to be just enough off that it may get a little bit difficult. So, house rules always apply. Whatever you and the GM can or BM can come up with is kind of what goes.
So importantly, though, can we still use the fickle finger of fate tables?
Absolutely.
Yes. So tell me about this fickle finger of fate.
So collectively, there's a set of tables called the I Was Just Growing Up tables, and the intent is to progressively layer in additional details. The first table is a little good or a little bad, and we've got a common theme that we've tried to keep through the game. For the most part, if you roll low, it's good, other than damage. And if you roll high, it's bad. So we've reorganized the table so it's a little clearer to understand if you're doing well or not well. Because before it was just random. So you'd roll a 9 and be like, I don't know if it's good or bad. Now it's like if you roll a low number, you know, ooh, I should get excited. Or you roll a high number, you're like, how bad is it? So the first one's more lightweight stuff, like maybe you're a pacifist, or maybe you've got a tick or something like that. The next one, maybe you got a little extra money or a cool weapon, or maybe you've got a limp or whatever. The fickle finger of fate is the fickle finger of fate. You may have won the galactic lotto or the genetic lottery, and you're like either really rich or you have like perfect stats, or the other end. Or there's a bounty hunter that's chasing you down right now.
I find as a GM, I love that kind of stuff because I like consequences, but I like anything that I can use to, not necessarily against the player, but really against the player. So that kind of stuff is super fun. So that's pretty cool. I like that.
We you guys mentioned Charlie Foxtrot, and that was your second Kickstarter, if I'm not mistaken. And it was funded in 24 hours, less than 24 hours. I mean, that's an amazing response for considering the last edition of Battlelords had been out 20 years prior, if I'm not mistaken. And how do you guys feel about this? Like this show of love for the game system?
I think the response to the new edition of the game has been amazing. We've got some hardcore fans who have followed the game for 30 years, and we're glad they're still happy with the game. But really, one of our big goals was to expand the audience. The game has been around for a long time, and not a lot of people know about it. And we think it's a great game, and we're happy that new people are learning about it and trying it. And we want to bring it to as many new people as possible, so that they can discover Battlelords and share it with everybody else.
So do you want to tell us about the upcoming Kickstarter?
Fully Armored?
Was it Fully Armored? Is it basically gear porn?
So the upcoming Fully Armored Kickstarter should be coming out soon. I know currently I'm working on finishing up the layout for the pages, all the new equipment and weapons, as well as armor, and that should be finished up soon. And then I believe it's just we're going to be outsourcing and trying to get our artist involved and into the loop so we can get this to be another great looking book, because we enjoy putting out high quality pieces of artwork as well as quality books.
Yeah, and one of the things we really tried to do with it is really fill in. So with the core rules, we only had this much space for weapons and this much space for armor, and it was constraining. And so what we wanted to do is like, okay, rather than just having a little bit, and you kind of have, I've got like a little tiny 22, I've got a nice AR-15, and I've got a chain gun. We tried to fill in the gaps and bring the top end for things a little higher for certain types of ranges. So you have a lot more overlap between the types of weapons, between the types of armor, so you've got a lot more variety and kind of angles to play, so that the team, because one of the things that happens from a combat perspective is sort of a rock, paper, scissors mechanic behind things. And so you can't afford everything. So it's nice to have a mix of weapons, because then it's like, okay, you shoot at this guy, I'll shoot at that guy. And then the team can start to take things apart. And there are definitely scenarios, kind of like games like Magic the Gathering, where you have this weapon removes the armor's threshold, we call it, so the ability to resist damage. So think of it like resistance. And so you take that down, and then the next guy pops in with the laser, and he's dead because he's got no resistance to the laser. So it definitely cues into that kind of a thing. So it encourages people to really think about how to use things together, and from a weapons perspective, and also layers of defense. Somebody bring up ECM, somebody else bring up a anti-rocket system.
That's great. I mean, I'm looking forward to picking them up. That'll give me an opportunity to get the new rule book and to get Fully Armored, which if I beat Chris to it, that means that I'll probably wind up running. Which
I think it's doubtful given my pile of Battlelords books right next to me anyhow.
Are you guys able to give us a time frame of when that Kickstarter is going to happen? Or are we still not at that point yet?
So there's kind of two pieces. In terms of book development, we're working actively in the layout stage. So a lot of the editing is done. We have some layout editing to do, but broadly, we're looking at images that we need to collect and a few pieces to commission, that kind of a thing. So we're broadly, the book's mostly together. The content's all there. From a kickstart of the funding side of things, I believe we're looking at a late Q3 timing. But I'm looking through the phone towards Tony to give me a nod if I got that right.
It looks like a nod.
I think I saw him nod. Thumbs up. Okay, there we go.
So speaking of Twitter and projects that you guys are working on and everything that's going on, why don't you tell us about Savage Worlds? I know a member of our group is super excited about Savage Worlds, loves it, wants to put everything in Savage Worlds. Unfortunately, he's got a family and kids, so he can't do everything. Tell us a little bit what's going on with that.
We're excited to bring Battlelords to a new set of fans through the Savage Worlds rule set. We tell everybody bringing armored infantry combat to Savage Worlds. We think people are really going to like it. Battlelords has a great setting, and the current rules are fantastic if you're into tactical and gritty and a little crunchy. But Savage Worlds works in the setting too, and we've tailored the game for that rule set to take advantage of that fast, furious, and fun reputation that Savage Worlds has. So we think people are going to love it. I think the Battlelord setting really lends itself well to the Savage Worlds rule set, and it's in play testing now, and hopefully it will be available soon. We're going to kickstart it and bring Battlelords to the Savage Worlds crowd, and we hope they love it. And maybe they'll check out the original edition of the game. Maybe they won't. Either way, we'll be happy. It's spreading the game to a new set of players who might not have otherwise learned about it or tried it.
Yeah, I think it definitely fits in with their theme of kind of over the top combat and flexibility and just being able to run any kind of game, because like we did the rifts in Savage Worlds and just having to choose which bits you want to flip on in Savage Worlds worked for rifts. So I could definitely see if from what Chris and Tyr told me about the over the top combat and crazy stuff and kind of humor of it all. I think that kind of fits with the Savage World system, and I think that in itself could bring you into a completely different type of fan base, rather than just 50-year-old guys like us.
The Savage World conversion is really Tony's baby. And the purpose on it is we want to introduce Battlelords, a system that we really like, to a whole nother generation of players.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I'm saying there was what I love that in the previous versions of Battlelords to what I've read about the new ones, reading the Quick Start guide, reading the stuff online, is that you kept the dark humor aspect of it. Uncle Ernie is still there. The Fickle Finger Fate tables are still there. The quotes that I stopped that Eridane's sword with my heart quote. I mean, it's all for me that makes the game. I love that sense of humor, but it's got all the technical love. And you as a DM can decide how you want to run it. You want to be serious or you want to have that humor in there. That's up to the DM and to the players group. But I personally love it.
I love the dark humor. I'm a nurse, and we definitely wanted to keep that in. It kind of appeals to kind of all of our nature. But, I mean, it really has had that feel since the beginning, and we all kind of like that, so we wanted to keep it.
Good. So just a little bit more about you guys. If you guys want to tell us a little bit about how you got into gaming, and maybe we'll start off with Dave since he has the least lag. So,
hi, I'm Dave. I'm older than dirt. It was really cool when it came along because that meant we could grow things easier. So I got introduced to gaming way back with the original booklets for D&D and the original boxed basic set with the dragon on the front. That's kind of where I started. And then Travelers was very quickly one of the games that made heavy rotation. And so being able to explore vast expanses and get into that kind of a mindset was a big thing. I used to spend a lot of time generating ships for that game, and high guard rules and having battles in that space was lots of fun. So that's kind of where I started after that. I've hit most of them. I haven't played Toon. I haven't played Paranoia. I keep saying I should. Call of Cthulhu with the right game master is a blast and a bit creepy. So yeah, that's kind of my background. Kurt?
So I started with the D&D box set and went on from there to started playing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, as well as some Shadowrun and some Battletech. And then I met Tony and Dave at the martial arts studio, and Tony got me into his game, which was Blood of Heroes, as we continue to play different things. And then he introduced me to Battlelords, and I really enjoyed it. I love the ability to add things together and, kind of build your own build out. It was pretty awesome. So we kept going from there and, kind of shared ideas as they went through book writing and that. So been around a long time together with this.
Don't do the math.
Don't do the math. Don't do the math.
And Tony.
Started with first edition Dungeons and Dragons. Thought that the concept of role-playing was really good, really cool. I was immediately hooked. But the fantasy genre was never quite my thing. And back when I started, there weren't a lot of options, but thank goodness there were some. We had the Palladium system come out, and then we had Cyberpunk and Top Secret from the TSR guys, and other genres. And I thought, this is great, expanding that concept into other genres. And once I realized that there were other options out there, then I was definitely hooked. But yeah, definitely a fan of the sci-fi genre. My favorite games are going to be, Cyberpunk, Mechton, Godlike, Cthulhu Tech, anything with a sci-fi bent is what I've been drawn to, and been gaming for more than 30 years now.
Yeah, I think that's pretty similar to us too. Like, I started in middle school with a friend with D&D, and then went into everything else you see behind me there, and Tyr.
It's about the same. I started with the red box and the dice you color in, and then I got experimental in college.
As you do.
Apparently, I'm the only one who started late as the college dropout in the mid '90s. Actually, for everybody's edification, I dropped out before playing the role-playing games. That didn't happen.
Yeah,
not because.
Yeah, it's not like the people that we used to play with in our gaming group who barely had jobs and all worked at the same place.
Probably much better now.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, so to follow up on Nathan's question, we talked about the past. What do you guys play now when you're not playing your own game? What do you still do anything else?
I've got too much going on between work and this and
solidarity.
Unfortunately, writing new material doesn't give us a whole lot of time to play the game. A lot of what we get to do is play test new scenarios and try things out, see how they work. What I have found that I've done is my son and a friend of his started playing D&D. And so his first kind of foray into it, I'm like, Dad used to play this a lot. And so we sat down together and made him a character and ran him through it. And then he had such a blast with that, killing a goblin, that, he wanted to do it with some other friends. And then on top of that, I ran him through a simple Battletech because he loves mecha. And so we played a very simple game of Battletech. And so it's kind of trying to pass on the love for the games.
Oh, and I don't get a lot of time to play if I'm not writing or running Battlelords. I'm writing for it, either the regular version or the Savage Worlds version. We've got so much content we're trying to get out there, but right now I would probably say Battletech. I jumped on the new Battletech Kickstarter, and I'm eagerly waiting for my Kickstarter goodies to arrive. A bit of trivia for you: Battlelords was almost a Catalyst Games product. We talked to the Catalyst Games guys about publishing Battlelords, and they were really interested. They thought it fit that niche between Battletech and Shadowrun really well, but it was right when their Kickstarter hit, and that thing hit huge. I think it was probably the biggest miniature game Kickstarter of all time on there, and their hands were full at that point, and it just never came to be. But that's okay. We love their stuff, and I spend a lot of time playing it. So yeah, I'd say Battletech.
Yeah, well, that we've got the Kickstarter from Necrobiotic coming, which that should be interesting as well. But Kurt, I know what you're talking about. My girlfriend's kids, so I introduced my girlfriend to D&D, to one of my groups, some old friends. We got her involved, and then the oldest saw us, playing on Monday nights, and he got interested. I bought him the kids' books. Now all he wants to do is play and make characters and design and draw the characters that he's come up with in his mind that are part dragon, part insect, part griffin. The imagination coming off of this kid is just fantastic, and I love it. It makes me really happy to see that, and and I just want to encourage it. I want to encourage him, read what you want, watch what you want, do what you want. Just make that imagination grow, man. It's lovely.
Yeah, I was just gonna say my daughter just moved out and she played with me a few times, but now one of her roommates is gonna start up a game, so she's gonna get sucked into it again. So,
so one of the things that I really like about writing this and running the games at the cons is that we really get to kind of spark this, and I don't see it in a lot of the kids, other than the kids that are involved with gaming. So like the example, we had this group of 15-year-olds that were playing with us at the con, and it was hilarious because they all got so involved into it. And Tony's son, who didn't like to play, said it was boring, all that kind of stuff, decided to just sit in. And by the end of it, he was in it with these kids that he'd never met. They were all so invested in what they were doing and how they got through it. And, hooting and hollering and just having a good time, to the point where when Tony's son got home, he was like, "Dad, I get it now. I see why I enjoy this. That was a lot of fun." So I enjoy that. I like seeing that we're, passing it on to younger generations.
Yeah, Tony, go ahead.
Yeah, funny story. Kurt got my son into role-playing. I've been trying to get him to do it for years and years, and he just wasn't interested, and came to Gen Con with us one year, and Kurt was running that game at Gen Con where he had a whole table full of teenagers, and my son jumped in, and they had so much fun. He was hooked after that. And now he's trying to get his gaming group to play. They play Dungeons & Dragons all the time, and I keep trying to get them to try other games, try other games, and they aren't interested in it. So the last time he went over there, I slipped a hard copy of the Quick Start rules into his bag. And I was like, just show him this. And he came back and he said, yeah, our dungeon master found those Quick Start rules, and he wanted to keep the book. So I let him have it. So hopefully we may have him playing Battlelords. We may have a couple new converts, but I think that finally did the trick.
That's what you got to do sometimes.
In my case, when I first started playing, I started with Harmmaster, not D&D. So that's a nice, very complicated system where everybody basically dies from the common cold. And I went from that to my second system was Battlelords. So I wasn't even introduced to D&D until 3 or 4 game systems down the road. And when I got there, I'm like, what garbage is this? But I've gotten into the swing of it too.
Yeah. So Kurt, you mentioned Gen Con. Speaking of Gen Con, you guys got Gen Con coming up, and your entire set is sold out already. I mean, just gone. So are you guys excited? What do you guys got to tell us about what's going on?
The fact that all of our sessions have sold out pretty much almost immediately is pretty amazing for us. I mean, don't get me wrong. We ran a lot of games last year at the con virtually. And to be there in person and be able to talk to everybody, see everybody, get them engaged in this, it's just really nice to be able to talk to and communicate to your fans that way.
Are you going to be trying out any of the new gear and stuff like that? The stuff that are you going to doing previews of the Kickstarter material, or?
We won't have anything from the Kickstarter material because we have the set pieces that are actually all part of Charlie Foxtrot, which was our last book, which is the one shots. Those one shots broadly were created to do events like Gen Con. So we have, and actually some of that gear is actually going to make it into from Charlie Foxtrot into Fully Armored, because it was not in some of those things are not in the core rules. So the goal is to really just kind of keep it to the things we've got, because we're running a lot more games than we have in the past. And we've had the luxury and opportunity to actually have a booth. It won't carry into the next year, so we'll just kind of have to see if we can manage to make it into the lottery there. But definitely very excited. Good opportunity.
I haven't been to a con in so long. It's not in my near future plans, but I'm a little jealous that you guys are going to be able to do that. That's great.
And then Tony reminded me, we do actually have one thing we were going to preview, and I forgot about this. Apologies, Tony. We have the Savage Worlds rules that we're going to demo as one of the games. So there is that opportunity to get in on one of our next projects. We've got a lot of upcoming projects, and I lose track sometimes.
It's just nice because I feel like you guys are doing, something as friends together, working on a project, and hopefully not like trying to like rip each other's throats out like in real life, because I know like working on the podcast, sometimes when somebody like bangs their microphone all the time, my eyes start to like bulge and my veins start to pop, and so I know like working together on a creative project can be trying sometimes. So how do you guys manage that and stay friends?
I'll start and the other guys will jump in. So I think part of it is we all worked out together doing martial arts together. So you build a lot of rapport with your partners because you're literally responsible for each other's safety. And so that's a part of it. Part of it is we have fun beating on each other just because. We have a great sense of humor, so we play off of each other a lot, and we allow each other the space that we individually need when things are going on. We all have different schedules and lives, and we all have families, and things come up. So give grace where we can. Have a lot of fun where we have the opportunity to be together.
That's great.
Kurt?
Well, Tony, Dave, and I have known each other for a long time, and we started working together in the martial arts studio. So in that place, some things happen. Sometimes things happen. You get hit, tempers flare, and you got to trust that the person you're working with is not doing it on purpose, not intentionally hurting you. So once you get in that mindset, you kind of keep that going. And so now we have a healthy respect for each other. And so we know when, Dave's on it, he's got something that he really just can't let go of, and he's trying to get his point across. It's just not coming across the way we're seeing it. And same with Tony, we're just, sometimes we just miss it. We're not explaining it correctly. So we all give each other the benefit of a doubt on that. It really makes it easier and nice to work with.
That's a valuable asset to have, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
I tell people we work together pretty well because we all have, I jokingly say we have complementary versions of OCD. We're all really good at one specific thing, and we tend to complement each other where we cover each other's weaknesses while in enhancing each other's strengths. Occasionally we do butt heads, mostly Dave and I, because our OCDs are very similar. We're both very analytical and strongly opinionated, but fortunately we have Kurt and Michelle who act as tiebreakers. And a lot of the times when Dave and I are butting heads, it's because one of us doesn't quite understand what the other one is trying to tell him. And Kurt can usually get us to step back and go, hey, you guys, I think this is what he means. But, it's not to say we don't have shouting matches, but things turn out better in the end. The game product is stronger for it. If we don't dig in our heels when the answer becomes obvious, if Dave's got an idea, I've got an idea, we'll argue about it. But when the clear winner comes out, we're like, yeah, you were right. Let's go with that idea. And, sometimes it takes a bit of an argument, but we stay friends, and I think the product ends up stronger for it. And like I said, gives Kurt and Michelle something to do. Keeping Dave and I from getting too out of hand.
And we also, when we see people digging in, we do tend to give a little bit of space and kind of go, okay, what am I missing? And then Kurt's always there to jump in and kind of go, hold on, let me explain. This is what he's saying. This is what you're saying. Kurt?
So Dave and Tony are both type A personalities, and I'm not. So generally I get to be the peacemaker or, try to explain things to him. Okay, this is what he means, or Dave, this is what Tony means. Tony, this is what Dave means, and basically try to help him work it out and get through that.
And if nothing else, you have the martial arts to fall back on to see who can beat up who. It's a perfect system.
I'm pretty sure between the three of us, there would be no real winner. Whoever walked away from it would know they'd been in a fight and would probably be severely injured at that point in time.
There's really no winners in this one. We all know each other real well. There's no winners, just a lot of pain.
Kind of a metaphor. Yeah. So I'm pretty sure Nathan likes to cause us great pain in the campaigns he runs. Every little mic pop that he doesn't like.
Every bag of chips consumed by one of our members on mic, just hot micing a whole bag of chips,
We lose so many characters that way.
It's true, but I mean we've got our own dynamics.
Yeah, it's fun. And Matt, who's like the whole podcast thing was started with Matt
Blue Falcon, as we like to call him.
Yeah, Blue Falcon. Yeah. Yeah, so we definitely go back and forth sometimes on like editing choices and stuff like that, what to keep in, and because I like all the jokes because these guys are super funny, and probably about 90% of our podcasts are just jokes with like occasional role playing, and it's always a challenge. Like, how much do we keep that in versus what people are they probably don't want to hear us making dumb jokes for 90 minutes. So, but that's what we like. So. Do you guys have anything else that you want to touch on about Battlelords or what you've got going on? Any other projects? Give us a little preview or a teaser.
So after we finish Armored Up, we're looking at additional books like the Hall's book, Hostile Alien Life Forms, as well as we want to work on a vehicles book. I know we want to do some more spaceships, that kind of stuff. The deck plan's been really popular, so we really would like to do some more of those. As well as we want to give more information about the universe. So, just different things, either supplements like Charlie Foxtrot or, additional species, that kind of stuff. All those things just kind of add and make a little bit more depth in the Battlelords universe. And we're interested in keeping expanding it. I mean, we want to do more like Galactic Undergrounds and that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we also have a project where we're going to put together, because we've gotten some interest in new ships and new vehicles. So the vehicles will probably make it into a Warmongers guide, but there's also a lot of interest, not whether you're a Battlelords player or not, there's just not as many deck plans out there, and so interesting environments to play from a sci-fi perspective. So expanding some micro PDFs of, I don't know how many pages, but smaller than 48 pages, looking at some things in that space to help add material. So we've got a lot of projects in the fire right now. And the Savage Worlds we've talked about a little bit, and there's probably we estimate 4-ish books there already, maybe 5.
So with the micro PDFs, would that be like you do like 10, 20 of them, and then once you have a critical mass, you do a published printed version? Is that kind of the...
We haven't really figured out how we might integrate that together. So we might take that path. We might include them into a Warmongers guide. It's that we're trying a little bit of a test to see how well they do. They seem to do pretty well because we released the initial deck plans, and that did pretty well. So we're just kind of testing the waters with that.
So the Warmongers guide are basically PDFs that we eventually plan on putting into books. But for right now, they're basically just little snippets, things that we can put out fairly quickly that add to the Battlelords universe. I know the first one's been out, and it's downloadable, and I think it's like $5, but it has more information about species. I think it's got a few more weapons in it. It talks about different parts of the planet. Basically, it's a lot of the stuff that we couldn't fit into the main book because we, quite frankly, ran out of room. So we plan on expanding those and using that. And we've even talked about other supplements like it to put more information out there and into the hands of the players.
If people want to follow Battlelords news or get updates about upcoming Kickstarters, projects, things like that, what are the best ways to get a hold of you guys and hear about this stuff?
So we're available on pretty much your social media flavor of choice. We have a couple of Twitter accounts. One is from Granny, for those who are familiar with Battlelords. Granny is a very entertaining member of Balshram. She's actually a hardcore Battlelord, but she's really more functioning as a specialist in the field and advertising for her, as advertising their products, really. So there's two different ones. That one's got more of a kind of a funny Granny edge than the regular Twitter account. We do also have a Discord group that we run, and people are actively involved in that one, asking questions and getting feedback on how to play certain scenarios out and that kind of a thing. There's also an active discussion on there around the Savage Worlds. So we will do actively in our game product development. We engage with our base to play with things, like test things out, try new ideas. So gameplay and play testing is a big part of our product development. So Discord's a great place there. Facebook, we're active on Facebook. There's Facebook discussion groups there too. We also look for feedback on how to deploy things. We asked a question recently about, for Canada, we're finding that there's a couple different ways we can deliver to Canada, and we got some feedback around delivery from the UK. So we're just asking our Canadian fans, what do you think works better for you? So that we can try to get feedback about, are we doing it the better way? We have Instagram as well. So we post things for Instagram. We also have a mailing list. So a lot of different ways to get engaged. We tend to prioritize the mailing list when we're starting to publish for a new thing coming out like Kickstarter. So the ones who get on the mailing list will get the heads up about the Kickstarter going live first. And there are those things in the Kickstarter that sell out very quickly. So if the Kickstarter is of interest, then definitely you'll want to get that, and we can get you those after the podcast so you can include them for people.
Yeah, I'll include all links to all the social media and everything in our show notes for people that are interested. And
a link to 23rdcentury.net or battlelords.com. I think the link's right to it. And you can
I'll throw all that
buy the books straight from it, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Tyr, Chris, did you guys have any further questions for the
I think we have to answer the most pressing question we had.
Guaranteed, yeah.
How does Chunga feel about how this interview went?
And not to be confused, that's the volcano god, not the heavy metal band.
I mean, who's got the D100? I've got the table right here.
Pulling some dice out. Hold on.
All right. I've only got D6s in this.
All I'm going to ask is, please don't draw mud. Please don't.
So a 59.
Long and noisy. The volcano god is trying to send you a secret message.
Volcano god.
Excellent.
Very interesting.
Hey guys, we want to thank you. This has been excellent. Do you guys? We've monopolized your time all night this evening. Do you guys have any final comments, thoughts, words you'd like to get out to the listeners?
The Quick Start Guide is the easiest way to pick up Battlelords. It's Battlelords Lite. It's got all the information and everything you need to play Battlelords of the 21st century. And best of all, it's free. So download it, get your friends to download it, make up a character or play a character in it, and just have fun.
And I'll add, there's also a free sneak peek at the art. The art that we have in the core rules is stunning. We wanted the core rules to be top-notch and industry best standards, lay flat binding, the whole match. And if you want to see what's in there, download a free copy of some of the artwork and go, ooh, and then buy our book.
From a couple of guys who spent 20 years playing it, I wholeheartedly agree.
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to one of these guys running you through it, because I'm gonna make their lives miserable.
Yeah, we've pretty much made our new arc DM cry last night. So, and he hasn't seen Chris play an Orion Rogue yet, and that's one of my favorite memories of all time.
Chaos. Pretty much everything is chaos.
Fodder good for chaos too.
they're next on the list.
Yeah, thanks so much, guys. This is really good, and I loved commiserating with you guys. I wish you the best of luck on the project. I know I'll be back in it when it comes out because it looks like tons of fun and right up my alley. So I'm glad we were able to make this mostly work, barring the tough technical difficulties. So thanks for sticking with us.
We'll when we get the campaign going and we start publishing episodes, we'll tag you guys and let you know what's going on. So and just want to say thanks a lot. It's been great talking to you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. We appreciate the opportunity to come and join and share a little bit about our love for our game.
Awesome. Thank you. Good night, guys.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Good night.